Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well in 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy.
Clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell. Everything will be well. 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alrighty, boob tubes. Another one of Kip's clips. Should be a bit better. Welcome, one and all. Hopefully my voice lasts out, but it's a bit hoarse. But if this is as bad as COVID gets, man, the quicker everybody gets it, the quicker we're all immune. Apart from old, vulnerable people who this shit might kill. Maybe up to possibly. But I've got manuka honey and lemon. Oh man, it's heaven. In the throat. Yeah. I've got Halve Soothers. So I should have somebody kissing my neck and all that jazz. Well, that jazz. I've got some ice cream. And not the stuff that melts. But aye. I mean, I first felt this on Tuesday night. I felt a wee bit, a few shivers and whatnot. A few chills on Tuesday night. That's Friday. I can already feel myself getting better. My sore head's almost completely away. Yesterday I had a bit of a cough. Today it's developed into a bit of a sore throat. But apart from that, it's all good. So afternoon, everybody that's joined in all this. And thanks for all the advice to the COVID survivors. All the advice from all the COVID survivors out there. But it did make me realise how long it had been since I'd actually been ill. Now, it's been a year and 6 months. Almost exactly a year and 6 months that I haven't smoked any nicotine in any capacity, a joint or anything. And long story short, the last time I was ill, like with any flu or cold, I used to smoke bongs, and the absolute torture and turmoil I would put myself through to get stoned, man, when you're like coughing and phlegming. And you'd still force yourself to smoke a bong. See, now that I vape, night and day, man. Night and day. But anyway, I digress. Get better. Get well soon, Colette. Hopefully it's just one of these new bullcrap variants which will pass within 72 hours or whatnot. Yeah. So Get better. I done a test, mate. Look at this, my test. It's here. I done a test on Wednesday. It came up positive. I'll do a test tomorrow. See what it says, and I'll do one on Sunday as well. Oh shit! Oh, I'm shocked I fucking zoned out, mate. Who's the draw? Who have we got in the draw? I meant to watch that. It was live on BT Sports as well. I fucking completely forgot. Shit, priorities, man. I need to find out who the fuck will go in the draw. Oh man, who the fuck have Rangers got in the draw? Braga. Good stuff, man. That's doable. Mate, that's well doable. Atalanta or Leipzig will be a tougher challenge, but Braga, mate, is doable, isn't it? That's a nice wee draw for us, by the way. Not too shabby at all. Now, let me see if I can get myself half organised here. Nah, Shug, I'm happy with that, mate. I found a link to an RT live stream on, I keep wanting to call it Odessa, but it's Odyssey. And I had somebody, oh, West Ham Rangers final, mate, that would be shit. Oh, that would be the business. Oh, and if you go and look below, somebody left a comment the other day saying I should back up my channel on Rumble and Odyssey. And they said that I could transfer all my shit over there automatically just by clicking a few buttons. And I've done that. So, depending on how YouTube's going to move forward and whatnot, Odyssey and Rumble, I'm going to have channels there. It was my impression that YouTube, either the YouTube bots or the YouTube's rule books, had eased up a little since the YouTube purge, as it's been called, the YouTube purge. But with what we're witnessing just now, like for example, RT have now had their license to broadcast in the UK revoked. That was in the news today. YouTube have banned or blocked, they've not even cut down their channel or anything, it's still there, just nobody can watch it. They've banned it worldwide. So what are YouTube going to do when they see me broadcasting some RT? I mean, where does it end? There's nothing wrong with the content, there's nothing illegal with the content, nothing's getting broke, there's nothing, nobody can make any legitimate things about the content. So what the hell's going to happen? Well, It smells like ice cream. So where will the shit show end? It'll be interesting to see, especially now. Just before we go to the top of the hour, I'm going to grab RT at the top of the hour, which is in 10 minutes. But just before that, what I want to show can do that. It's easier now. Shut a few of these down. I'll show that as well. Thanks to the person that So here's the BBC. Now, if you stay in the West or anywhere where there's Western dominated media, you would have no idea the peace talks not only. Fucking hell, sorry man. This camera is doing my fucking titties in. There we go. All sorted. So if you stay in the West or anywhere where there's Western dominated media, you would have no idea of peace talks, the positive peace talks, Putin coming out and basically saying that this can end tomorrow. I will pull out tomorrow, finish this tomorrow. Couple of demands. Ukraine doesn't join NATO. You recognise Crimea as part of Russia, and the Donbass or Donetsk, I think it's the Donbass region, is recognised as independent. Now the BBC's kind of reporting on that today. Could a peace deal be taking shape? Well, this is kind of weird because this was like this was over 10 days ago. Over 10 days ago when Russia came out and said basically what we want for you is for the war to stop is for the status quo to remain. And what I mean by the status quo is Crimea remains in Russian control. The Donetsk or Donbass region, I need to brush up my geography, remains autonomous, independent to a certain extent, but certainly not under the administration of Kiev, because there's an obvious divide within Ukraine between the people who are more pro-Russian than pro-EU and vice versa. And Ukraine remains, as it currently is, out of NATO. So all Russia's asking for is for the status quo to be officially recognised, instead of everything being in a grey area, the Minsk agreement's not getting lived up to, and there being perpetual warfare in the Donetsk or Donbass regions. Shit, I need to fucking brush up on that piss. And that's what Russia was asking for over a week and a half ago. And it's only like today you see this sort of a stuff getting mentioned in the press. It's almost as if the Western press are predominantly just perpetuating all the death and destruction, you know, that they're going through it all and looking for all the innocent deaths and pointing at them and going, Russians are bad. Oh shit, man. I need to speak quietly in my voice. So there's the BBC, there's European Views, 28th of February, 7th of March. So, depending what narrative you're getting your news from, what pigeonhole, you may or may not be aware that there is actually a way out of this for everybody. It's just some people don't agree with it. Right, let's have a wee look and see. Right. RT's been all over the place recently. They've stopped doing the top of the hour news as regularly as they used to. I don't know what. Well, they've obviously got a lot going on. Alright, Method Man, Shug, Colette, Rebel. Rebel, you don't want West Ham, mate? I know. West Ham would be shit hot. Oh shit, I've just realised these can't be, these aren't evens.
But I am sure, at the end of the day, the historic closeness of two fraternal nations will certainly prevail.
Well, on that note, Mr. Lavrov, thanks again for giving us this interview and
frozen
showing our
pineapple
viewers the Russian viewpoint. It was a great discussion.
Thank you very
Sounds
much.
nice. Rooting for Putin, say no to NATO and Bono. Pelosi cringe performance of Poem by Bono in support of Ukraine. Ireland's sorrow and pain is now the Ukraine. And St. Patrick's name, now Zelensky. Oh shit, I've missed that stuff, mate. This... Right, hopefully we'll get the top of our news. No. If not, fire over on a BBC's or something. My god, what's the Baghdad protest? They literally got the locals out with their pitchforks and everything, man. I suck it. Method Man, you suck it. I love pineapple, to be honest. Never had it frozen. Part V on a pizza, but then I've cooked it and it's not be frozen anymore. God almighty, man, it's like just death and destruction on a 24-hour constant cycle, man. Right, come on, some top of our news, man. Pineapple Express was great, make no mistake. In the afternoon, Roberto. Top of our news, top of our news. Come on, top of the morning to you.
Stories. British media regulator Ofcom revokes RT's broadcasting license, citing
I am
the
shocked.
conflict in Ukraine and the channel's, quote, relationship with the Russian Federation. RT.
I hope the Russian Federation kick the BBC out and block everything the BBC, all this, they've blocked a lot of the social medias and all that shit. So I'm hoping they retaliate and kick the BBC out, and then to hear the BBC report on it would be fucking hilarious. It's already like they can't even hear themselves. They've got no self-awareness. They can't. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do, and just they're just paid to fucking read what's in front of them. But the lack of self-awareness of how hypocritical they're coming across. If, for example, Russia do kick out the BBC, and then the BBC report on it like, no, Vladimir Putin is stopping the flow of real information. They can't see the hypocrisies, double standards, and
Islam's the watchdog's move as politically motivated. Over 200,000 people have.
That's it, the rebel. They lost the info war, so just bad the opposition. And the rebel, I don't think they've lost the info war, right? And I'm being pedantic here, but hear me out. I don't think they've lost the info war as much as people are uber skeptical enough now to look at the other side. And if they do that, basically, I don't think they've lost the info war. Obviously, their channels still influence a hell of a lot of people.
At the Moscow Sports Stadium to celebrate the 8th anniversary of Crimea rejoining.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, sorry. They've not so much lost the info war as they've just lost the ability to dominate and control the narrative. You know, whereas before, a bomb goes off, you, as a curious mind, go and search 5 different outlets and they all say roughly the same shit. Nowadays, bomb goes off, you go and search different outlets, you're getting different versions of the story. What one's true? Who knows? Are any of them true? Who knows? But the ability to dominate and control the narrative, and thus people's the majority of the populace opinion has gone.
Russia. As sanctions pile up against Russia, people across Europe also feel the pinch with the cost of living soaring. And experts warn the worst is yet to come. Also ahead.
They are trying to take the melting pot concept from the United States soil and to make the melting pot from the entire world. And they would be the melters.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov talks about his country's relations with the West, the Ukrainian crisis and sanctions in an exclusive interview with RT to be shown throughout the day here on RT.
Method man. That's the worst form of virtue signalling, changing your avatar to have a flag or some shite in it, man.
From Moscow to...
I'm showing my support for Ukraine. You fucking feel that strongly, go and get an AR-15 off Alex Jones and go and fucking at the front lines. They're taking foreign fighters over there, they need all the help they can get, even though they're winning the war, apparently. Here a recipe: lemon juice with honey and a drop of whiskey. Boil in a pan, let it cool and drink. Well, lemon, manuka honey, no whiskey. If I get let near loose whiskey, I drink it all. Just try and sleep this off drinking, but it's a bad idea. You want your immune system
To the world,
whooping at
this
'em.
is RT. Pleasure to have you with us today. My name's Ewan O'Neill. The southeast
Whiskey
Ukrainian city
milkshake.
of Mariupol has been under relentless bombardment since Russian
It
troops
sounds nice,
surrounded it
Colette.
on March 2nd. The Russian Defense Ministry says Ukrainian nationalist forces have attempted to capture the city's infrastructure, and some 90% of buildings have been damaged.
Oh,
On Monday,
beautiful.
Moscow said it had sent 450 tons of medicine, food and essential supplies to Mariupol. Up to 400,000 people are still thought to be trapped with supplies running out. Many are trying to flee the war-torn city using a humanitarian corridor to Zaporozhye, which was opened around 3 days ago. According to local authorities, as many as 30,000 people managed to escape through the route.
Well, the thing is, I would need to go out to the shops and give everybody the meagie to get all that stuff. Plus, I don't want to be put near any alcohol, man.
So far, using personal vehicles. Those fleeing told us what they've been through.
We were in the cellar for almost a week, did not try to get out. Strikes were so hard that it was impossible to go outside. Now a large flow of people will go through the corridor. It will only increase. There is no city there anymore. There are no means of communication or radio in the cellar. There was no water, absolutely nothing. We saw the Donetsk People's Army. They kept open the corridor. The evacuation was organized centrally. Soldiers of the Ukrainian army were standing on the highway in front of everyone and putting on civilian clothes in order to join the column.
It is pure luck that we got out of Mariupol. We rushed out of the cellar at our own risk. As soon as we left the city, we saw the Donetsk People's Army. Children and women were placed in buses. I know nothing about the men.
If anybody from RT ever watches this, I want to apply for voiceover work. And just write the shit down on pidgin English that I can understand, and I'll read it out in understandable English in an accent that doesn't fucking sound like a fucking robot. What is it with these people, man? Is RT run by quantum computer? That's what I'm beginning to think. Are Russians real, or are they all cyborgs? I think they're all cyborgs by the sounds of it. I mean, if you closed your eyes, you would think it was the fucking Borg. Bjorg. Not Bjorg. The Borg. The Borg. Not Bjorg. Or Bjork.
Soldiers of the Ukrainian
The Borg.
army were very violent. People were taken hostage.
The soldiers of the army
Just to
were
hide behind
very
our backs.
violent.
People
Why
in
will you
Odessa
not trust
and
me?
other cities in
I
the
sound
countryside
like a
building
calculator.
sandbag defences and barricades in order to protect the region from the arrival
Alright,
of Russian
Alan.
forces. The port city is home to around 1 million citizens, although an estimated 100,000 have already left since.
Method man. You're talking about your granny giving you toddies whatever age you were. And this might account for my penchant for alcohol. But when I was younger, I was a baby, and this was common practice in and around Glasgow, maybe Scotland as a whole. But when I was teething as a baby, and I dare say my dad must have done it to Orleans, finger in some whiskey, put it on your gums. Baby. Baby getting fucking whiskey rubbed on his gums, man. Quite funny. But that's why I can drink whiskey like water, man. Been drinking it all my life, quite literally. Since my teething days.
The conflict began. began. And that's as the UN says more than 3 million refugees have now fled Ukraine since the start of the conflict.
Boys, I don't know. I don't know if you are Glaswegian or Scottish or in and around that neck of the wood, but I've no idea why we get the stereotype of being mad fucking alkies. You only need to go one generation back to find fucking adults giving babies hard fucking liquor, man. Hard liquor, dude.
Conflict. Almost 2/3 have escaped to neighbouring Poland, which has overwhelmed the country's public services, while the Czech Republic has said it no longer has the capacity to accept those fleeing due to a lack of resources. The refugee influx is seen by humanitarians as one of the very worst in European history. Britain's media regulator has decided to revoke RT's licence to broadcast in the UK with immediate effect.
That's a bit strange because I thought they'd already stopped allowing them to broadcast. Anyway, they might have some more interesting details.
Ofcom cited the current conflict in Ukraine and the channel's, quote, relationship with the Russian Federation. RT has slammed the move as politically motivated, calling the watchdog a tool of the London government. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by RT correspondent Paula Sleer. Paula, RT UK's licence is gone. Now, a decision that Ofcom itself admitted was less to do with actual wrongdoing.
Well, Colette, no offence, but with Scottish people, it's only a stereotype. With Irish people, it's fucking true. Tongue in cheek, Colette. Tongue in cheek.
Our mistakes on our part, but rather how we could possibly do our jobs independent of the state, I believe.
Well, you know what, Kirk, you're right.
Normally, when a channel is
the old
banned,
cures are the
it
best.
was banned in relation to the content.
We're all jakies.
And what we see here is that instead of citing any kind of reasons related to our content, it rather talks about the fact, in terms of who funds the channel, the fact that the ban order comes and is related to Russia's military operation in Ukraine. Take a listen.
This investigation has taken account of a number of factors, including RT's relationship with the Russian Federation. It has recognised that RT is funded by the Russian state, which has recently invaded a neighbouring sovereign country. We also note new laws in Russia which effectively criminalise any independent journalism that departs from the Russian state's own news narrative, in particular in relation to the invasion of Ukraine. We consider that given these constraints, it appears impossible for RT to comply with the due impartiality rules of our broadcasting code in the circumstances.
Paula, just to pick up on one of those remarks then by Ofcom, that line saying, as regards the Ukraine conflict...
Kirk, I've seen people use newspapers to wash windies, but it never made sense to me because, as you're saying, all the ink comes off and you think you'd just be spreading that about fucking the windy. I went on Amazon and bought myself a windy washing kit, man, and now washing the windies is fun. Getting one wee squeegee and everything.
We cannot be satisfied that RT can be a responsible broadcaster in the current circumstances. Now, in their own words, their investigation into alleged bias, some 29 separate probes, hasn't even concluded. So how did they justify the move?
That's an important point because, as you say, these investigations are ongoing. And in the past, and they reference the fact that there have been investigations in the past, a fair number of those investigations have found that RT was actually okay. So they haven't actually mentioned that there is the possibility to clear RT of wrongdoing. What I also think is significant is they make in their statement a big deal out of the fact that they respect the freedom of speech and that they're not against different point of views. And again, they haven't mentioned any kind of particular reasons why they're banning us vis-a-vis our content, if you take a look at this.
We recognise that RT is currently off air in the UK as a result of sanctions imposed by the EU since the invasion of Ukraine commenced. We take
Thank you very much, Russia Today. You answered my question.
Seriously the importance, in our democratic society, of a broadcaster's right to freedom of expression and the audience's right to receive information and ideas without undue interference. We also take seriously the importance of maintaining audience trust and public confidence in the UK's broadcasting regulatory regime.
So I definitely think that banning a channel that is effectively only expressing its ideas is in no way against freedom of speech. It's also significant in terms of the timing of this. It comes after conversations were held in the British Parliament, in the British government, that effectively pushed Ofcom to make this decision to ban us. And there have been calls in the past by British officials publicly calling to silence the channel. So there certainly is a political kind of impact or reason for the decision.
And what about RT itself? What has the channel said?
Well, the channel expected the decision to come forward. Of course, it points out the freedom of speech and the fact that this British media regulator is supposed to be independent. RT feels that it is censorship and it certainly robs the public of their right to know.
Ofcom has shown the UK public and the regulatory community internationally that despite a well-constructed facade of independence, it is nothing more than a tool of government bending to its media-suppressing will. By ignoring RT's completely clean record of 4 consecutive years and stating purely political reasons tied directly to the situation in Ukraine and yet completely unassociated to RT's operations, structure, management or editorial output, Ofcom has falsely charged RT to not be fit and proper and in doing so robbed the UK public of access to information.
Well, Paula, thanks very much for taking us through that.
That's the thing that really
RT's
sticks in macro.
And just staying with the story, political commentator Anthony Webber raised the question with me earlier whether other broadcasters in the UK should now be worried about their licences.
The public are being denied choice of news, and a lot of people have always liked to flick between our
I love how the talking heads get on there. If it's no Ryan Dawson and all that, it's fucking hilarious. Talking heads RT get.
Wrote to Ofcom.
It's like a who's who.
March. And
YouTube
pointed out a number of things which they needed to investigate at the same time regarding the other mainstream media in the UK.
Oh, aye, Kirk's, I know, mate. Freedom of expression.
If they were going to investigate...
Try saying you think a man and a woman are defined by their chromosomes. Chromosomes? X, Y, and
I noticed with this recent
XX or something.
they haven't
I don't even know the difference between a male and a woman. Genetically. Technically.
Now, the UN Security Council's urgent session on biological
Try supporting
in Ukraine
any other political party other than the SNP. They have SNP fucking...
York, we believe. Let's take a listen.
Braveheart loving, Mel Gibson cock-sucking tramps after you, man. The
As
brown
I mentioned
shirts.
last week,
No joke.
the BWC needs to be operationalized and institutionalized to ensure it is properly equipped and resourced to face future challenges. The Convention's upcoming 9th Review Conference presents the ideal opportunity for its states parties to comprehensively strengthen the Convention. The United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs
See when weed gets legalised and all that, man. I'd love to go to like a weed tasting weekend. You know, a wine tasting weekend. But for weed.
Mr. President,
brilliant.
Turning to the issue of the safety and security of Ukraine's nuclear power facilities.
I come from the hill. I've got 2 stone, don't you know?
Has reported that, according to the Ukrainian authorities, all safety systems at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant remained fully functional as of yesterday, following the site's loss of connection to a 3rd external power line.
Newspaper and vinegar, it does work bizarre.
Grid. Although officials from Russia's state nuclear
Your son offered a girl a seat at uni and was called a misogynist.
Ukrainian staff
oh my fucking lord. He's the turned round and bitch slapped the cow. I don't even know if you're allowed to have tongue-in-cheek stupid jokes like that anymore. Are people fucking capable of understanding that
for 3 weeks now.
That's
The IAEA has reported that, according to the Ukrainian authorities,
tongue-in-cheek, said in jest,
15 reactors remain
banter,
operating.
a joke,
I understand that
fucking trying to be
nuclear
funny.
Safeguards, the IAEA is still not receiving remote data transmission from its monitoring systems.
Good God, who told me that insanity about men and women? Mate, I don't know who told me, but it didn't tell me too well, because I can't even remember what it is. It's X and Y. It's one of them. And is it double X or double Y? Is another one? I don't even know how it's all lined up.
Safety and security of Ukraine's nuclear facilities. I urge all parties to work towards this end.
I mean, like, and I know we do stay in a day and age where people who say that are getting persecuted.
Is having on civilians. The civilian casualties continue to rise. As of 16
Should have told her to calm down, get back in the kitchen. Calm down, dear. That would have been brilliant. Told her to calm down, dear.
780, killed of whom 58.
You know I love using dear.
The actual
And as a term of endearment.
Much higher. Most of these casualties are caused by the use of explosive weapons with a wide area impact.
Who's this?
These include attacks using heavy artillery, multiple launch rocket systems, ballistic and cruise missiles, and airstrikes. I also want to reiterate that attacks directed at civilians are prohibited by international humanitarian law.
Manners are now misogyny.
We must find a diplomatic solution.
What about
to this
like
war
chivalry? You know, like
to the violence. As Secretary General Guterres said, and I quote, "We need an immediate cessation of
hold on,
hostilities
this can get paused because this she's saying something interesting there, but a good chat in the chat. Manners are now misogyny. My man is very generous, but when his team wins, he's super generous. Oh, what I was going to say is, like, now, I've more or less recently turned 40, and I think the penny's starting to drop that I'm getting old, and maybe I've got an old spirit, but I still look beautiful and young. But when you're younger, I grew up the vast majority of my life till I was a young man without the internet and without the explosion of the internet, especially on your phone and all that. But when I was young, I was still a smart ass. I still thought I knew better. My attitude was completely different to everybody older than me. And that's always been the way, hasn't it? It's always been the way. The younger generation always thinks they know better, vice versa. Now we've got a young generation that are getting their head they're getting dragged everywhere, left, right and centre, with every fucking Fruit Loop out there online being able to get inside your head and fucking influence you one way or the other. So young, and no wonder young kids are smart arses at the best of time. But now you've got young kids who are smart arses who are getting influenced with a bunch of fucking Fruit Loops online, man. If that makes any sense. So you can't really blame. You can't go like, oh, look at that generation, man. Oh, they're fucked. The generation above our generation or whatever generation you are would have said the same about your generation. And when you were young and growing up, with your different attitudes to the generation that came previous to you. Now, as you grow older, your attitudes change, and whatnot. But when you're younger, you don't see that. You just think you know everything. You know best. My way's the best. Why does anybody else think differently? I don't know. It just seems to be the pattern forever, not just right now. I mean, if you go back and look in history, fucking for the Vikings to the Middle Ages to throughout the whole of medieval Britain and Europe, you would find sons growing up and their father trying to position them or trying to better their dad, so on and so forth. It's that constant friction and fight and struggle between the generations. And we're witnessing it now when, and I say it's on steroids, it's just entered a new dynamic. That's the best way of describing it. As new technologies and new things evolve and whatnot, the way the game can be played changes, if that makes any sense.
Based on the principles of the UN Charter and international law. We need peace, peace for the people of Ukraine, peace for the world. We need peace now. I thank you very much for your attention.
أشكر السيدة ناكاميتسو على إحاطتها. أعطي الكلمة الآن لأعضاء المجلس الراغبين في الإدلاء ببيانات. أعطي الكلمة لممثل الاتحاد الروسي.
La parole au représentant de la Fédération
Российской Федерации.
Господин председатель, прежде всего,
First of all, allow me to express condolences to the representative of Ireland following the loss that they suffered. This is obviously a loss to the Irish mission and for all of us. So please accept our condolences now. President, colleagues, we've already said that during Russia's special military operation in Ukraine, information was discovered regarding the implementation of the Ukrainian authorities with the support.
Well, I'm a wasp, mate. And the Scots have a bit of Viking in us. And the Scottish race claim to come from the Caucasus and one of the lost tribes of the Israelites. So, maybe I do look like Putin.
And the direct supervision of the US Ministry of Defense of dangerous projects as part of their military and biological program. This activity was carried out on the territory of Ukraine, at the center of Eastern Europe, and in the western borders of Russia, which created a real threat for the biosecurity of our country and the whole region. A week ago, on the request of the Russian Federation, there was the first Security Council meeting held on this topic. Here we asked our Western colleagues a series of questions, but they haven't yet responded to them. The representative of the US wasn't able to explain how the statements of the American officials about how there's allegedly no US-controlled biolaboratories on Ukraine, how that tallies with the fact of the presence of documentary proof of this kind of cooperation between Kiev and Washington. I'd recall here we're talking about.
Oh my god, man, somebody put a light on her, man. She needs better makeup.
Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Health of Ukraine.
Let me take my glasses off, man. Oh, goodness, could we see anybody there? I was like, what the fuck?
To dangerous pathogens located in facilities on Ukrainian territory. Although the American delegation can't and does not want to respond to our questions, but they are, as much as the Russian Defense Ministry is aware, is studying what materials we received from Ukraine biolaboratories about the implementation of military biological programs of the US and their NATO allies on Ukrainian territory. Over the last week, new details have come to light, which allow us to state that the components for biological weapons were being created on the territory of Ukraine. The implementation of the aforementioned American-Ukrainian agreement from 2005, and comments on which we're still waiting for from the US representation, has been going full steam ahead for all these years. However, from the document we can see that the American colleagues were not helping, as they claim, the Ukrainian Ministry of Health, but rather the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. The Security Council document that we distributed this morning, you see in that material, you can see the so-called technical assistance plan for certain recipients of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. I recommend you to look at this document very carefully.
This is the stuff that blows me away. It was at the United Nations 3 days before that so-called maternity hospital got bombed, where one of the Russian dudes sat up there and went like that. Here, look, see that old maternity hospital? It's now getting used by, can't remember if it was the Atov battalion or the Ukrainian military, but they were like 3 days before they struck it, sitting there in the gaze of the whole of the world with all the world leaders. Now, this stuff just gets blanked or doesn't get allowed to be viewed by your average Tom, Dick and Harry in the West, because it would make them start scratching their fucking head. How can this baldy fucking Russian cunt sit up in the United Nations, start pulling documents out his arse, and no cunt go like that? This is false. These are documents are false. Instead of just going like that, it's Russian propaganda, Russian propaganda. They're asking through genuine mechanisms of communication in the world of geopolitics for answers about all this shit. And what do you get? You get people just laughing it off in the West. Biolabs, biolabs, biolabs. Russian propaganda. He's got the documents!
It confirms direct funding and supervision of the Pentagon
as of
its Defense Threat Reduction Agency of military and biological projects in Ukraine. The overall quantity of the funding was $32 million, and the direct and
Matt Lucas. Oh, that's a nice.
Ukraine.
I like that one.
Kiev, the Regional Health Epidemiological Department of the Central Health Epidemiological Department of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. In Odessa, the 27th Regional Health Epidemiological Department of the Central Epidemiological Department of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. In Lvov, the 28th Regional Health Epidemiological Department of the Central Epidemiological Department of the Ukraine Regional Department of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense Epidemiological Department. I'd like to draw your attention to another vitally important point. The representative of the US State Departments continue to muddle the information and ascertain that US allegedly does not operate in any biological laboratories in the territory of Ukraine, but the facts show otherwise. According to the plan that I mentioned for technical assistance, the donor is the US Ministry of Defense. They established the tasks and the workload as part of the projects on Ukrainian territory, and they set forth a list of the necessary equipment and delegated significant authority to an affiliated contractor company, Black & Veatch, with cooperation with Ukrainian bodies of authority. The recipient of American assistance was the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and they were allowed timely access for Pentagon and contractor staff to laboratories on Ukrainian territory in order to carry out work as part of these projects, and also to provide access to these facilities
as of easy for me to say.
Foreign
as if
to the projects themselves included was implemented not by the Ukrainian scientists, but with their participation.
I'm off.
Put simply, the Ukrainian authorities gave the Pentagon carte blanche on the territory of Ukraine to carry out dangerous biological experiments there. The American contractors at the same time got a tax break under Ukrainian legislation. So what did the Ukrainian scientists receive in return, i.e. the Ukrainian people? Free travel to international conferences based on expenses for food and accommodation as established by
free trip to America, man. Why wouldn't you?
Compensation is carried out. That's the compensation provided for working alongside dangerous biological science. This is not the noble assistance to Ukraine that the American representatives talk about. This is cynical use of its territory and population for dangerous research, which Washington does not carry out on its own territory, so it doesn't run a risk of hurting its own people. Won't be surprised if similar facts about activities supervised by the US appear in laboratories in other regions of the world too. We call on countries who provide their territory for carrying out this kind of experiments to the Pentagon to carefully study the contracts for their cooperation with the US in the biological domain. We fully support the question from China to the US to share the data of the activity of the 360 laboratories under American control around the world. Going back to Ukraine, these biolaboratories in Kiev, Odessa, Lvov and Kharkov were selected by the US Risk Reduction Agency not by chance. They were those who implemented the UP8 project, focused on studying pathogens of Congo Crimea fever, leptospirosis and hantaviruses. We believe that
sounds beautiful.
The military
Can I have some?
specifically in those pathogens is linked to the fact that they are naturally present both in Ukraine and in Russia, and so that their use could then be dressed up as a natural outbreak of these diseases. On the basis of in the laboratory in Kharkov, there's also the P781 project to study transmission to humans of diseases.
My God, are Russia going to come out and start blaming the West for COVID? That would be funny as fuck.
Through bats. Work on this was done alongside the infamous Lugara Center in Tbilisi. In this context, separate attention should be paid to the Pentagon's choice of carrying out work, the contractors chosen to carry out work in Ukraine, the Black & Veatch company. This is not just any old company. For more than 100 years, it's been working for the American Army. It has built for the Army military bases, including a laboratory in Los Alamos, to develop nuclear weapons. Research into human transmission of diseases through bats in Ukrainian biolaboratories was systemic.
But we know told that's where Corona came from. Corona,
And has been happening as a minimum since 2009 with the direct oversight of specialists from the USA. During the implementation of these projects, 6 families of viruses were identified, including coronaviruses and 3 types of pathogenic bacteria, the pathogens from the plague, brucellosis and leptospirosis.
Right. He's beginning to hurt a wee bit here. Is this shit live? It is live, or is that... Is he coming out and saying that fucking the US were funding research on viruses, including coronaviruses, and how to transmit them from bats to humans and all that shit? Now, again, do bear in mind, this is the Russian Matt Lucas, as Roberto calls him. Mate, but he does a good Russian accent, that Lucas, doesn't he? He's really bought into the part, mate. He's an oligarch. That doesn't really work.
These are the most attractive option to use in order for infection because they are resistant to medicine and they spread very quickly from animals to people. As part of the Flu Fly Away project, the Kharkov Institute of Veterinary Medicine studied wild birds as a vector to transmit avian flu. At the same time, they assessed the ways in which the transmission process could become uncontrollable, cause economic damage and create a risk to food security. Documents show the involvement of the Kharkov Institute
ice cream
in the work to collect strains of avian flu viruses which have high epidemiological potential and could cross the species barrier. The Russian Ministry of Defense also has more and more new documents about the transfer of samples of blood cells of Ukrainian citizens to the territory of third
I'm
countries,
definitely going to go
including
back
the UK,
and watch
Georgia,
this.
and Germany.
Oh shit!
The analysis
Where are
of
you going to
information
get
gives
this?
us grounds to say that the Ukrainian specialists were not informed
RT's YouTube's
of the
gone.
transfer of biological materials and are used and are kept in the dark.
Hold on, did RT
They
have
don't have a real idea about the real objectives of the research
Sorry,
carried out. And this is
our
not
technophobe, man.
surprising if, according to the
Does it put
contract
videos up?
documentation that I mentioned earlier, they are simply playing
Oh,
a
it
secondary
does.
role.
Good stuff.
We also have new
Yeah, okay.
data about attempts to destroy biological materials and documentation in Ukrainian laboratories in order
And
to
if
quickly
you
wipe
like
the traces
Odyssey
of
or
implementation of military and biological programs.
Rumble,
We know that during the
links below.
activities to destroy this,
I'm transferring all my
the
shit over, just in
veterinary
case
medicine
the
laboratory
deep state
is
Illuminati come after my YouTube.
citizens of Ukraine, the staff working there, weren't even allowed into the building. This laboratory cooperates with the Melchnikov Scientific Research Institute in Odessa, where research is carried out into pathogens of the plague, anthrax, cholera, and tularemia. In their attempts to wipe
Shit, what happened there? What happened?
Когда первые звуки мы слышали, мы не верили своим ушам. Неужели самолеты? И мы вот... Это было...
The fuck happened? Hold on, I'm going to have to space balls this.
Вот я еще даже пошутила.
I was typing shit, so I don't know.
Началась война, вот как-то такое вот. И тут такой взрыв, такой грохот. У меня консервация на балконе, баночки с вареньем упала.
Right, aye.
Вот такая вибрация.
Journalists really interested in verifying the documents that we provided, then I propose that you ask her directly, is that really her signature? I'd like to underscore once again. Learned of the results of the epidemiological research, and they were able to copy the medical documentation. I'm ready to snap up any fakes which are provided by the Ukrainian authorities with the support of their Western backers. The Western media expressing doubts as regards the reliability of the material that the Russian military published. I'd like to draw your attention to the following. The documents that we found have a signature, a real signature of officials from the US. Particularly, many of them are signed by the head of the Ukrainian office of the Threat Reduction Agency, Joanna Wintrol. This is a Pentagon staff member and well known in non-proliferation circles. Before Ukraine, she supervised the destruction of chemical weapons in Libya. If journalists really
I'll be honest, I find this highly fascinating.
That we provided, then I
do want to go and
propose
watch
that you
it back
ask her directly.
when I can
Is that
focus and
really
I'm not
her
trying to
signature?
spin a few other plates as well.
Once again, here we're talking not simply about the US and Ukraine's violation of the Biological Weapons Convention. We're actually talking about that there is more and more proof that at the centre of Eastern Europe, until the very last minute, there was a dangerous military biological activity being carried out.
Right, we get the general idea. Fucking held it. I need a fucking light for her face, man. Excuse me, I should have a cough button, but I don't. What I'm going to do, see what the BBC's are saying to it.
Some in Slovakia and Germany, but we communicate through apps. We are in
Can you
touch.
escape it, man?
Artem's concern is for his mum, who's here helping the school translate.
There's no news, it's all X Factor fucking backstories. When he was 12-year-old, he was run down by a garbage truck. Oh shit. A rubbish fucking lorry. A bin lorry. Fucking rubbish. Garbage truck. Anyway, let's see what the BBCs are saying.
This is James Reynolds in Lviv. Welcome to BBC News with continuing coverage of the conflict in Ukraine.
Colette, if you go down you can Google it. Colette is, somebody said. You can also go slow as a motherfucker. If you go to today's stream and down below you'll get my Odyssey and my Rumble. I'm in the process of transferring all my stuff over, so it's going to take forever. But there's my Odyssey. That's how many clips. Oh God, I managed to get quite a lot over. Make me hungry. Well toasted. Anyway, so that's that one. And there's my Rumble. It's just taking a lot longer to get stuff over. But aye, that's where you'll get the links. Collect, and if you just want to get to Odyssey, come over here and then click on the Odyssey and it will take you to their main shindig. And I don't know, do you know what it was? I wasn't a fan of doing this, to be honest. It was somebody left as a comment, and it was the fact that they're talking about, you know, the shadow ban, and then you talk about this, you talk, and it's true, man. There used to be a time on YouTube that with some clickbait fucking titles and whatnot, you would grab some attention and you would be able to grow your channel. Now you can't grow your channel at all, man. You're lucky if the shit you put up goes out to your people that subscribe to you, never mind being able to get found by anybody randomly. So I was thinking Odyssey and I want to call it Mr. Tumble. Rumble. Mr. Rumble. Well, maybe direct a few more new folk my way. Hey, what can I say? So we're back today. There's the BBC. Yeah, there is it.
We begin with Russia. It carries out an airstrike near the western Ukraine in city of Lviv. Smoke was seen rising from an aircraft maintenance plant. No one was hurt in the attack. Lviv's governor condemns the strike.
What's wrong with that guy?
The enemy's strike against Lviv is further proof that it doesn't fight Ukrainian troops, it fights its people. Children, women, refugees, nothing is sacred for them.
Well, we're just told it was a fucking aircraft maintenance fucking thing. I wonder why the Russian army hurt that. Fuck me, a bunch of fucking donuts. Who's swallowing this pish?
Ukraine's capital, Kiev, continues to be targeted by Russian strikes. A residential neighborhood in a northern district of the city is the latest to be shelled. US President Biden is speaking to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping this lunchtime. It'll be the first call between the two leaders since the start of the conflict in February. President Putin addresses fellow Russians at a major concert which has been held in the capital Moscow to celebrate 8 years since the Russians' so-called reunification of Crimea, the territory annexed in 2014. Mr. Putin told the crowd that the objective of Russia's military operation was to reunify and protect Russian speakers in Ukraine.
To liberate.
Now, 95%, there was a vote. 95% of the people voted to join Russia. You can argue 1,001 technicalities about the vote being real, genuine, fake, coerced, so on and so forth. I would argue it was as legitimate a vote as anywhere else in the fucking corrupt, fucking stinking world of democracy scams, to be quite honest. And I could quite believe that the people of Crimea would vote to be part of Russia. Why, I hear you ask? Well, Crimea, the reason it's so important to Russia is because there's a big, massive... there is a boat thing, a boat base, a naval base. And it's strategically very important to the Russian Navy and whatnot. And the Russian Federation, I say obviously, pump a lot of money into the naval base. And in turn, some of that money, a lot of that money, some of that money, a lot of that money, who knows, leaks out into the local economy, keeping the locals happier and whatnot. And that's not even to mention, like, I'm not even aware of the kind of demographics of Crimea. I.e., are they ethnic? Do they relate to being Russian more than Ukrainian?
People from this suffering from the genocide is the main inspiring motive of the military operation we started in Donbass and in Ukraine.
And the Kremlin-backed news channel RT, formerly known as Russia Today, has its license to broadcast in...
Formerly known as Russia Today, as if it's vanished off the planet. You know that channel we were just watching there? Formerly known as Russia Today, but they're still calling themselves Russia Today and you can still watch them. That channel. What kind of weird Orwellian fucking fucked up weird dimension are we staying in? These people just rely on... It's no they rely, they know the vast majority of people blindly just listen to that and go, oh yeah.
The UK revoked. The watchdog Ofcom says that RT, or Russia Today, is not a fit and proper channel.
Make cat videos. You know, I think I had a shit shoot channel at some point.
You're watching BBC News. I'm James Reynolds in Lviv in western Ukraine. And just a reminder that here, several hours ago, there was a plume of black smoke in the western outskirts of the city behind me.
Oh my God!
Carried out an airstrike.
Stop the fucking press! There is smoke, folks! Breaking news, come in London, I'm standing in Lviv, however you pronounce it, whatever ways the memo told me how to pronounce it, and I see smoke. What else?
And we saw that plume of smoke at about 6:30 in the morning as everyone emerged from shelters. The strike hit an aircraft maintenance facility on the outskirts of the city. Lviv's mayor said that no one was injured in the attack, that no casualties had been reported. Well, Lviv is about 40 miles from the Polish border, about a couple of hours' drive.
Why are they making this? Oh, so close to the Polish border. They're bombing sites in fucking Ukraine. See, if any part of Ukraine was off the limits, Ukraine would just put fucking all their shit they didn't want hot there. Are these people fucking... Are these people backward and retarded? No, they're not backward and retarded. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to paint a fucking... a picture that is painted with fucking somebody's fucking buckfast shite excrement.
On slow roads right now. It is well away from the current main battle zones in the east and the south of the country.
Russia, what are you doing? You're only meant to strike in areas that we tell you you're allowed to bomb.
Country. Fighting has also intensified in the besieged port city of Mariupol. That's in the southeast. Russia's defense ministry has said that its separatist allies are making progress and what they call tightening a noose around the city with the help of Moscow's forces. Our Kiev correspondent James Waterhouse has all the latest.
The closest this war has got to the western city of Lviv, 4 miles away towards the airport, an aircraft repair plant hit with missiles launched from the Black Sea.
The enemy's strike against Lviv is further proof that it doesn't fight Ukrainian troops, it fights...
It fights aeroplanes that are killing fucking Russians.
Its people, children...
Was there children's in this? What kind of... Is there child labour going on in this aircraft maintenance fucking thingy?
Women, refugees, nothing is sacred for them.
Honestly? Who's that? Oh god, I'm almost as bad. Finding Nemo. Who's the wee... Is it Dora? The thing with no memory span? That's the only people that can listen to this without going, like, hold on, you just told us it was an aircraft carrier. Now you're talking about them bombing women and children.
In Kiev, Russia's advance is being frustrated by Ukrainian resistance.
Oh, it's Hypno Man.
Take revenge for peaceful cities, this poster reads. One soldier helps himself to ammunition.
Yep, Kirks. I get that impression as well. They're choking for a bomb to land in Poland. And the scariest thing is, the stage is set. In fact, so the stage is set and they have incentivised any Tom, Dick and Harry for anywhere who wants to kick off this war to get a hold of a Russian-made missile and launch it into Poland. And that is the hardest thing to do. And it's not unheard of as well and undocumented to happen in times of war.
Dropped by invading troops.
Yet they haven't been able to surround
Dora the Explorer.
like they have in
Is it
other
Dora
cities,
and Finding Nemo though?
Safe. It's been
Well, there's Hypno Man.
Where a residential area like this has been hit by fragments of an intercepted missile.
It's left the likes of Yevhen to pick up the pieces.
Right, okay, so here's a bit of honesty. Or, hold on, we'll spin it somehow. But this wasn't the Russians targeting civilians. This was a Russian missile on the way to hit something that got intercepted with anti-aircraft, anti-air missiles or whatever. And then taking that out over residential areas. Similar to the explosion, I think it was in Donetsk. Oh, it was Donetsk actually. And there was lots of... long story short, Ukraine fired a missile towards the Donetsk administration building. It was took down with a missile. It blew up over a residential area or a busy street. I think it was a busy street. Killed fucking 20 odd people or whatever. And the guy that was reporting it was like, look, this is proof that Ukraine is targeting civilians. This is proof. And you're like, and then he turns around and goes and shows you the Donetsk administration building, literally like 2 minutes up the road, and talks about how the missile was intercepted. They're no targeting civilians, they were targeting the administration building. You could argue there's civilians in it, but they're the ones that are conducting the war and part of the war machine. Anyway, Dory. Cheers, Method Man.
My parents got this flat when I was 3 years old back in 1964. I celebrated my 3rd birthday here. I lived all my life here. All my life. I got married here. My 2 children were born here.
In the southern port city of Mariupol, almost every building's been damaged from relentless shelling. Military experts think the city could fall within weeks. Rescue teams are still trying to get to people trapped in a theatre, bombed earlier this week, while more than 1,000 sheltered inside.
The hospital didn't work. The schools and the kindergartens getting bombed didn't get enough traction. We'll try a theatre this time. Are they running out of any more heartstrings to fucking pull? Right. Here's a prediction. Soon we're going to get... Somehow they're going to start mobilising the gays. And I think Russia's going to bomb a gay club. That's what I think. I think what Russia's going to start doing is targeting the gays in Ukraine. That's if the neo-Nazis don't target them first. Or just the Ukrainian or East European population in general, to be quite honest.
Like the bomb shelter weren't damaged, but people cannot get out from there because we cannot clean the rubble because artillery fires, and it's really very dangerous.
Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin say they're both willing to sit with each other and negotiate
war crimes.
Oh, hold on. So, after all the warmongering and all that, they're now talking about, oh, there's peace talks going on. I mean, like, it was only like over a week and a half ago, Putler laid out his demands for peace.
Negotiate peace. For many Ukrainians, the idea of making concessions to this conflict's aggressor-in-chief is not a popular one.
I'm not a zoo will be next. Maybe a fucking circus. Mate, the whole the circus has already been bombed, mate. Every bomb going off is a fucking going off in the circus.
They've already paid a high cost. In Rivne, in the west, 5 soldiers are laid to rest. The pain ingrained on the faces of those they leave behind. James Waterhouse, BBC News in Kiev.
The latest there on the conflict and all of those events which have been happening in the last few hours. Well,
Kirks, you're talking about the Iranian thing, look. I've got it up there. I'm not even going to try and pronounce her name, but that's the lassie's name there. And I mean, if you were to go and show somebody that clip, but you can do it. See somebody that's unaware of the babies flung out of incubators by Saddam's soldiers onto cold floors, bullcrap. Play them her testimony. That's an experiment. Play somebody that testimony first and foremost. They'll be close to tears. And then go like that. Now your hearts. Now your heartstrings. Shit, man. My things might be running out. And then introduce them to the knowledge that it was a all bullcrap. And maybe it'll be an epiphany moment to realise that when you hear people like myself laughing and joking and whatnot about the stuff on the news about babies, about maternity wards getting bombed and all that. I mean, like, just run it through your critical thinking bank. What I would do is I would even call Bono. And you call Bono and he says, Q Bono, who benefits? Right? And Vladolf Putler waking up one morning. Vladolf Putler waking up one morning. Hold on, I'm distracted because my shit's running out. Uh-oh, that didn't work. Connected. Oh. There we go. Sorted. Well, Colette, what kicked this war off? A lot of people would debate what kicked this war off. You know, like the narrative right now is Putler decided to invade a sovereign country, one of his neighbours, for no reason. For me, it goes back to 2014. The tug of war between the European Union and the Russian Federation to get a very big jewel in the crown, economic crown of Ukraine, either to predominantly gear itself towards the Russian Federation or the European Union. This resulted in a coup, kicking out the pro-Russian dude and installing people that just so happened to be pro-West, pro-EU. That was back in 2014. And you've had this divide within Ukraine between the populace who want to be more European than Russian, and then other parts of the population that want to be more Russian than European. And they seem quite happy to kick shit at each other and kill each other, so... Anyway, look at this guy, he looks like a banker or something.
Well, across the border, Russia has been holding a celebration to mark 8 years since it admitted Crimea to the Russian Federation after what countries across the world consider to be an illegal annexation of that territory which belongs to Ukraine. There were thousands of people in the stadium in Moscow, including athletes, politicians and music stars. Topping the bill was President Putin himself. Here's a little of what he had to say to celebrate what he said was the reunification of Crimea.
To liberate people from these sufferings, from the genocide, is the main inspiring motive of the military operation we started in Donbass and in Ukraine. This is the objective. This is the aim. And you know, I remember these words from the Bible. There is no other love rather than if someone gives soul for their...
Is there no British folk that can speak Russian and have a job as a translator? Why the fuck all the translators sound like fucking a calculator? Even on the BBC, man, I thought they would be able to fucking up their games, man. I'm sick of listening to that people. It's like those fucking speaking spells fucking you had when you were a wee guy. Apple. Fuck me, man.
Friends. Words from the scriptures. And we are seeing the heroic deeds of our guys in this operation.
Well, that event was broadcast on Russian TV. It was broadcast with a delay of about 30 minutes from when it started. The television coverage of President Putin's speech came to a rather abrupt end. We want to show it to you. Take a look. Well, Mr. Putin there, as you can see, he was cut off in mid-sentence. The coverage reverted to an earlier performance. Our correspondent who was at the stadium tells us that the speech continued after that. It may just have been a technical issue. We will try to find out and let you know. Well, moving on, Ukraine.
Oh my lordy, 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 lordy. Right, man, it's a fucked up fucking day when... I've been saying this for ages. See when you heard the BBC and the Western press bouncing around going, false flag, sounding like Alex Jones for the late 90s. You know, sounding like any early truther. When I was about back in the day, man. False flag, I'm expecting false flag. It was October surprise, false flag. Now the BBC and all that are sounding like fucking absolute conspirators. And there's like, I don't know, Putin was cut off mid-sentence there, and there was somebody there in the stadium and said that the speech went on. So why didn't they tell you what he fucking said then? Was there like something weird going on? We will update you about this technical difficulty with... Oh, fucking hell.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has also been...
Remember when news was news and not just the talking heads suggesting shit? Some people would say just sitting in front of you with a fucking side shed, fucking very calm, very hypno voice. Is hypnosis power of suggestion?
Talking, his own video message has made a reasonable contrast to Mr. Putin's appearance in a crowded stadium. Let's take a listen to the Ukrainian president.
The Russian invaders continued their covert shellings of our...
I prefer you when you're playing the piano with your dick. Who does he look like? Looks like a wee gremlin or something.
Cities, Lviv, Kiev and the region, Kharkiv region,
couldn't Alexa do it?
Donbas cities, Severodonetsk, Kramatorsk, Mariupol, missile strikes, cruise missiles.
I think they're getting all these fucking robot translators deliberately, because I don't know if it's just me. I find it really hard to listen to what these fuckers are saying when the translators are all fucking robots. Like robots. And they speak like it's like listening to Nancy Pelosi.
We're taking them down as much as we can, and we destroyed the aircraft and helicopters, and this is a respecting of the fact.
Kelly, I would argue, whatever way you want to define it, it's just World War III's already kind of happening, man. There's massive struggles happening all over the world. I just think it's just a different forms of warfare now. You know, like PR has took over everything. So it's just proxy war over proxy war, proxy war, proxy war. But I don't see this escalating, Colette. Outside Ukraine. I see the West trying to do that, but I don't think it will happen.
That so far we don't have an adequate anti-aircraft, anti-missile systems. We don't have enough aircraft, but our aim is clear: to defend, to protect
no fact the news has turned into an act.
President Zelensky there. Well,
oh, hold on! They cut him off mid-sentence. Is this a conspiracy? We're going to get people to check that, and we'll get back to you. Fucking donuts.
We've heard from Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Putin, the two leaders on opposite sides of this conflict, but other leaders, of course, are weighing in as well. President Biden is expected to ask Beijing not to provide Russia with weapons for its war in Ukraine in a phone call that he's currently holding with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. China.
I just love how Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping. Think if you call it. I love Chinaman's names, man. They're the fucking best.
And we look at China's words very carefully, hasn't condemned the invasion, says it wants to remain neutral. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams has the latest.
Now, listen to how they're trying to demonise China for not fucking bowing down and doing what fucking America and the West tell them to do.
Russia says its campaign is going well, releasing these pictures today, perhaps to show its helicopters are still able to operate freely. But we don't know where these pictures are from, and Western officials say the Russians are having to be extremely careful where they fly. The campaign, they say, is increasingly bogged down. Ukrainian forces able to inflict damage from the air with a fleet of highly effective drones.
In the meantime, we interrupt this news piece for an advert from the dick piano playing President of Ukraine. Please send us aeroplanes and more shit! Bombs, bullets, weapons! We need fucking shit to kill them! But we're winning! We are winning! David Brent style winning! Send us all your shit! We need pilots, drones, bombs, bullets, aircraft, everything! Send us shit! Yeah, there's going to be blood on your hands, the West, if you don't send us stuff to kill people! I can't do it. It's schizo-fucking-phrenic. You've got to be absolutely, completely, you've got to suspend all disbelief to just blindly sit down and gobble this shit up. It's unbelievable.
This is not the rapid Russian attack everyone predicted. Is that perhaps why peace talks are happening at all? They began early on in the war and seem to have gathered pace. But for all the talk of progress on issues like Ukrainian neutrality, there are still huge obstacles to overcome.
Oh my god! Yes, so let's focus on fucking war. Quick, sell as many guns, bombs and bullets before the fucking find peace, quick!
What role, if any, is China willing to play?
Oh, what the fuck has it got to do with fucking China? Why are the West... Anyway, well, I do know why.
Joe Biden and Xi Jinping are holding talks today. Washington anxious to see if China's newly enhanced relationship with Russia means that Beijing is planning to help Moscow fight its war.
This is an opportunity for President Biden to assess where President Xi stands. There's been, of course, rhetorical support or the absence of clear rhetoric and denunciation, or the absence of denunciation by China of what Russia is doing.
Denunciation? I hate Americans fucking speaking English. Come spend some time in the motherland, we'll teach you how to say it properly. Particularly my name.
This flies in the face, of course, of everything China stands for.
But Russia and China both argue the West is to blame. This is all about what they see as Washington's determination to control the world, and for Moscow's veteran diplomat to keep Russia down.
I think what we witness in Ukraine is the
Well, this was the channel formerly known as RT, but it's still currently known as RT.
essence of the Western course, strategic course, to marginalize Russia, to contain Russia, to stop Russia's development, and to reduce Russia to zero role.
In Moscow's Luzhniki Stadium today, a huge display of Russian national pride. An event to mark 8 years since the annexation of Crimea, Vladimir Putin's first move to carve.
Fuck's sake, you only need to go to Ibrox to see fucking a stadium like that with all the Union Jacks. We don't even need an excuse. Oh, man.
Pieces of Ukraine.
Фашизма. Но история русского Крыма.
A Russian member of parliament denounces alleged fascism in Ukraine. For all the scattered anti-war protests around Russia, Vladimir Putin can still count on plenty of fervent support. Paul Adams, BBC News.
We want to bring you an update on that conversation between President Biden and President Xi Jinping of China. In the last few minutes, President Xi has told President Biden that China, that the US must guide bilateral relations.
Put his buddies with the Saudi prince.
According to the Chinese state media, which has clearly given the first lines from that. Well, let's cross to Washington and speak with our correspondent there, Nomia Iqbal. Nomia, I was just reading those lines. They're not particularly illuminating at the moment, so perhaps a more general question. Are the United States and China on opposite sides of this conflict here in Ukraine?
At the moment, very much so. And President Biden's message to China is basically pick a side. The way the US sees it is that China's trying to have it both ways. On the one hand, it's backing Russia. It doesn't even call this an invasion. But on the other hand, it has said that Ukraine is a sovereign country. And so Biden wants China to join the West effectively to denounce Russia, something that I'd be very surprised to see if China actually does. China wants to be neutral in all of this. And just to add to...
China are independent, they can have whatever opinion they fucking want, whether that opinion is X-Wing Ping, whatever his name is, shits out gold bars. They're allowed to have this world that we're now slipping into where they're trying to browbeat you and virtue signal everybody into one dimension of thinking, and thinking outside of that is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Some of the lines that are coming out, and as you mentioned, they're coming from Chinese state TV, so we have to be mindful of that.
America is led with a couple of fucking senile geriatrics, man. Could you imagine, like, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi with no earpieces, no scripts, no editing, just in the room talking to each other, man? Are you fucking hilarious, man? That Nancy Pelosi... and she looks like fucking Skeletor as well, man. And Biden, man, he keeps fucking up, going off script and fucking up. Calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal. You know what I mean?
We'll get a full readout.
That's not the way it's done.
Point from the US and what that conversation was. But Xi Jinping has told Biden that the Ukraine crisis is something we don't want to see. He's also said that state-to-state relations cannot advance to the stage of confrontation, that this confrontation is not in the interest of anyone. And he's also said that peace, security are the most cherished treasures of international community. Well, President Biden wants to test that. And something that the US is hugely concerned about is this claim that China is offering to help Russia with its economy and its military, basically to get round the sanctions, to weather the sanctions, which concerns America. There's no evidence, by the way, that America has provided so far to back that claim, and China...
Hypnosis, power of suggestion. Like, I want to go back to the days where news used to come on and it used to tell you things that they knew had happened. Not about something, well, somebody suggested that there's no evidence of it, of course. Next story. Yes, somebody suggested I have 6 heads and 9 cocks. No evidence, of course. Moving on. Next story. Somebody has suggested. They're just out there fucking throwing around rumours. Then they'll show you fucking shit Russian footage. We cannot confirm this footage. We do not know where it was filmed. We've been told that helicopters can only fly around in certain areas and stuff. Then it shows you all the Ukrainian footage of them kicking shit out of Russian soldiers and blowing up their tanks and all that. We don't need to confirm where it is. We're not even telling you whether we have or haven't confirmed where it is. Like, I mean, this is unfucking believable. And again, and I'm quite happy to be painted in any fucking light, to be honest, man, because it's a joke. I'm the founding father of Estonia, so I'm out, man. All this shit's happening away from me.
Has completely rejected it, but America's been very tough on that, and President Biden will be saying to Xi Jinping, if you cross that line, there will be consequences to pay.
We've talked about diplomacy. Let's talk about politics now in the United States. Is there widespread popular support for President Biden's policy on Ukraine?
It depends which policy you're talking about. So when it comes to the fighter jets, for example, so there are two things that President Zelensky wants from America, as we saw in his address: a no-fly zone and fighter jets. On fighter jets, it's a little bit more nuanced. There are certainly Republicans who believe that America should be offering fighter jets. A couple of weeks ago, 40 senators wrote an open letter saying give them fighter jets, give them the support they need.
Sports socks. Two for a pounder. 2 for a pounder. Fighter jets. 2 for a pounder. 2 for a pound.
It's generally, President Biden.
Colette, that's fucked up, those pictures you just sent me, man. Putin's got the same fucking haircut as me.
And is kind of backed on that because
a younger Putler.
They also agree with his assessment and the assessment of the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, that if you implement a no-fly zone, then that could cause a confrontation between Russia and NATO troops and US troops, something that they don't want, which could escalate to a world war. What's really interesting is the US public's opinion. A recent poll suggested that, about 59% of Americans, according to this particular poll anyway, would back a no-fly zone. But when they were explained what that would mean in terms of an escalation, the support sank for that. So at the moment,
it sank. So, she was going to tell you the real figures. Did you catch that there? She was going to tell you the real figures, and she went, it just went down. I must have fucking absolutely fell through the floor. The fact that she went to say the figures and then dropped.
It's President Biden is generally backed on some of his policies, not all of them.
Nomi Iqbal in Washington, thank you so much. Well, let's pick up with the diplomacy and speak now to the chief spokesperson for the EU, Peter Stano. Peter Stano, thank you so much for joining us. The EU has said it's going to dramatically cut down.
Think we'll get the bombed maternity ward?
Russian energy. I wonder, though, how you might explain to Ukrainians here the fact that the EU continues to finance Russia and is essentially paying for the invasion.
Well, first of all, we are not paying for the invasion.
First of all, what the fuck are you talking about? Did this guy just say that the EU is paying for the Russian invasion? What the fuck?
We are quite to the contrary. We are taking tough measures in order to cripple ability of Kremlin to finance this brutal and bloody aggression, which is totally illegal. We imposed already 4 rounds of sanctions, and not only the European Union. These sanctions have been imposed in parallel by United States, UK, and some other like-minded partners. So these are massive sanctions, and the objective of the sanctions is really to cut down on the ability of Kremlin to finance the aggression. Of course, we are very well aware of the demands by our Ukrainian partners that we should get rid of the deliveries of oil and gas from Russia. The EU acknowledged this. The leaders last week.
Yes, for a dick piano-playing fucking comedian, we should freeze our populace to death by giving up royal Russian gas and oil and start World War III on the behest of a dick piano-playing comedian. Ah, what a joke! This is a funny one.
Decided that we are going to decrease and terminate our dependency on Russian oil and gas. But again, this is something that cannot be done from one day to another. But we are working very hard on this to make it reality as soon as it gets we are very much aware what needs to be done in order to cut off the financial flows from Putin to stop his ability to finance this bloody and illegal war against Ukrainians.
But going back to that point, as of today, EU money is still going to Russia. How would you explain that to Ukrainians?
Well, our Ukrainian friends and partners, they know very well what the EU is doing in their support, both politically, diplomatically, and economically. The EU is allocating, actually today we disbursed another 300 million.
Well, Kirk's, what was the one that they managed to, as soon as this kicked off, the Nord Stream 2, and that would allowed Russia to basically pump more oil and gas. Nord Stream, was it gas? I think it was a gas pipeline. I don't know if it was both, and excuse my ignorance. But it would allowed Russia to pump far more excuse my silence, I'm trying to think in my head, as opposed to my feet. Pump a lot more oil and gas into Europe. I think the pipeline touched base in Germany. And if Russia managed to do that, they could increase their supply, lower the price, and increase their market share because they can offer it cheaper. I'm probably way off the mark, but that's to the best of my understanding.
Euros for Ukraine in order to help them to keep to
Nord Stream 2, I think it was.
We are providing equipment for the Ukrainian army, so we are doing what we can within the circle.
The Nord Stream 2 pipeline, mate, it's not been switched on. It's been built. It's ready. You basically just need to push a button to put it online. And funnily enough, this war seemed to come about just as this pipeline was just about to get turned on. And as soon as this war started, that was one of the first things to get pulled. So, spot on Kirk's. Also as well, right? Well, let's see. If I just made up two, I think I must have just made up two. Here we go. It's a good way. I was right, it does fucking go into Germany, fuck's sake, man. Memory is better than I forgot, than I thought. So that's the Nord Stream. And it would go directly into Germany. Now, this is where you get the divide between the Anglo-American alliance, and by that I mean like the UK, the old colonial powers, the old colonial money, the British Empire and American cabal, clique, community, whatever you want to call it. And they're getting challenged from elsewhere. And the Brexit thing, like, there's a new world order coming about. You hear that on the news all the time now because of what's happening in Ukraine. It's funny. But the UK breaking away from the European Union is a way of the City of London, the UK and America trying to make sure the European Union doesn't become more powerful than them. And as I showed you there, you would get if that Nord Stream came online, you would be having direct. So Germany, one of the main players, if not the most powerful member of the European Union, would have direct control and direct delivery of all that oil and gas from Russia. Let me see if we can get the New Silk Road. Let's see if I can get one that shows you how it comes into Germany. So there's the New Silk Road that through maritime. See if I can find a better one. There we go. China's New Silk Road. So this is China's plan for moving forward, expanding their economy, and keeping it growing and stuff. And it's a new railway line directly into Germany. So it's going to put Germany in a very, 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 very powerful position. And obviously, I say obviously, the City of London has been the financial centre of the world for some time. The European Union was trying to move that to, I believe it was Brussels or somewhere in Germany, which I can't remember. So the City of London was actually under threat from entities within the European Union who were trying to become the main player in the financial world away from the City of London. Anyway, I digress with all that bullshit and boring news and stuff, but that, like, as Kirks was talking about, and a lot of this is wrapped up in economics, and the New Silk Road going into Germany, the Nord Stream pipeline going directly into Germany, if it did come online, would have changed the power dynamic, let's say. God almighty, man. Might get a Frankfurt. Is that the financial centre of Germany? I'm unawares.
Circumstances that are
sorry to bore you with that shit, man. I just love that stuff.
Some of the EU member states are dependent on deliveries of Russian oil or gas. But there is determination, and this is what we are trying to explain to the Ukrainian partners. There is strong determination to end it as soon as it gets, so that we really reinforce the already massive impact of the existing sanctions on Putin's war machinery, because the sanctions we introduced are actually bringing results already. They are biting. Ruble has devaluated. The financial markets in Russia are basically in free fall. So there are effects, and we are ready to do more.
Of course, but to reiterate that point, EU money.
The Belt and Road, mate. That's like the New Silk Road.
The Ukrainian president has accused
Belt and Road
the
Initiative
of appeasement, of not doing enough to disassociate itself from its purchases with Russia. How would you address that?
Again, the European Union is
Norris
totally
100%
without any question committed to support of Ukraine. We are standing on the side of Ukraine and Ukrainian people, and we are trying to follow this up with concrete actions. Both at the diplomatic level, we are working very intensively on international isolation of Putin, and we are working very intensively on efforts to achieve the ceasefire and the withdrawal of the Russian forces. And on the other hand, we are taking economic, financial steps to cripple his ability to finance this illegal aggression. Again, when it comes to the energy supplies and deliveries, you cannot change the situation of dependencies from one day to another. But the EU was very clear in its determination to work on it very fast, very efficiently. And Germany is one of the 27 member states who are forming the consensus of the Europeans. So let's not forget the determination, the actions that are being done, and the efforts invested in stopping
One
the war
Europe, one
machinery,
voice.
which is
No
now
room
going
for
against
any
Ukraine.
other opinion,
And Ukrainian
motherfuckers.
partners know it, and
You
they know that
either
we are
want to
trying
kill
our best
Russians,
to change the current
or we
situation.
want to kill you.
Peter Stano from the EU, thank you so much. Well, that's the situation about diplomacy.
Oh my god, man,
right
his
now.
mum definitely
Turn
combed his
to
hair
look at
this
what's
morning,
going on
didn't
right
she?
here on the ground in Ukraine. With me is Steve McAndrew, the head of emergency operations for the International Committee for the Red Cross. Steve McAndrew, thank you so much. You're right here with me in Lviv. We all heard those sirens, we heard the explosions and saw the plume of smoke. What's the Red Cross doing today?
Well, you said it. We're right here where we're supposed to be. So right now, today, as I'm talking to you, we have Red Cross volunteers from one end of this country to the other, crossing lines of conflict at the borders, helping people who are spilling out of Ukraine, and right here,
Spying for armies.
food, water, shelter, housing, psychological support, and other medical benefits as needed.
I'm
as
not.
best we
By
can.
the way, I'm not distracting from all the good
Cross
stuff that
is meant to be
the
able to
Red
cross
Cross and all these other
Ukrainian
NGOs
lines
do
to
and all
Russian
that.
lines. That's the whole point of having
But to think that they're not
We are able to
infiltrated
do
with
that.
spies
Sometimes,
and
not all the time,
just
and you
people
have to
giving
realize
intelligence
that's a
and
very
stuff,
dangerous proposition.
think
So we have to
is,
do it safely and securely. So sometimes
naive.
our colleagues in the international
I
committee,
mean,
of
you
the
only
Red
need to
Cross,
go
they
back
can
to
get
like
across,
fucking
sometimes
medieval
not, but I would
times
point
when
out
the
that we
kings and
have
queens used to
Russian
have
Red Cross
spies
volunteers
everywhere.
on different sides. We
And
have
it wasn't
Polish
even so
Red
much
Cross
spies, it's
volunteers,
just somebody
and we have
relaying
Ukraine Red
information.
Cross volunteers in the communities before, during, and after, and they're doing their best they possibly can. It's just a
Telling a little
continual
birdie.
grueling struggle, and we're doing the best we can to help them.
Lviv at the moment is quite quiet. Many people are inside. A lot of people are from Lviv. Some people have come here as evacuees or refugees. What can you do for them?
Well, you're right. Right here in Lviv, it's a city of around 700,000, and it's almost doubled with displaced people. We have about 1.8
Method
million
man,
people internally
he'd be good
displaced
for
in the
like if
western
you were
part
in
of
an
Ukraine.
earthquake or
So
something,
we're
he'd be able
doing
to get in
everything we
between the
can
wee small
to try to help
cracks and
them
all
at
that.
least get some shelter, get some references, the basic needs, food, water, shelter, but we're also supporting people that are going across the borders.
You'd be able to get into the cracks and all that, that the search dogs wouldn't be able to get into.
They're as safe as they can be. I can't say yes to that, right? But they're safe in their.
Method man, you're right. NGOs are, as I was saying, man, NGOs are full of. And like, there's no doubt good shit going on, you know? There's no doubt they feed some people and do some good and put some plasters on and shit like that. But as I said, I think like people are naive to think that there isn't intelligence gathering at the very least going on within those NGOs. I mean, you would need to believe the narrative that Putin's crazy, he's a despot, to understand why he kicked out all the NGOs and all that. I don't know if you remember. I think it was 2014. No, it was when Hillary Clinton tried to ferment. Her and Soros tried to ferment a colour revolution inside Russia, which never worked. It might have been pussy riot times and all that. Anywho.
Their spirit, and they're safe in their numbers. I mean, these people are very safe with each other because they carry each other in a way I've never seen.
Steve McAndrew from the Red Cross, thank you so much for joining us, and just really to explain to people here what's going on right here in Lviv. Things are reasonably quiet at the moment. People are still taking in the fact
Well said, Kirks. Cut out the middleman and
next. Well, there was yet another missile.
Be your
blast
own
in
charitable
Ukrainian capital,
foundation.
Kiev, this morning. One person was killed and 19 people were injured when parts of a downed Russian missile crash-landed in a residential district in the north of the city. My colleague James Waterhouse is there and sent us this report.
But this is the reality now for people living here. It's another morning.
Oh, it's hypno, man.
Where a
Now, it wasn't too long ago that this exact same thing happened, but it was the Ukrainian side that done it, and 23 people died. And you didn't hear a word. Not an inkling in the Western press.
Residential district like this in the west of the city has been struck with the fragments of an intercepted Russian missile. You can see the remnants of cars, wheelie bins, bikes, people's belongings, and then if you look up here, the whole side of the building has been ripped off.
Come on, we need an... Where's the X Factor backstory? Come on, show us somebody with a glass eye and a wooden leg.
Building just further down is a kindergarten where children would have been.
Oh yes, we've got a kindergarten. Ah, we've already had kindergartens. Come on, can the Russians no blow something up new? A cemetery, but that would kind of defeat. No.
Has been blown through.
A zoo. Alan said a zoo earlier.
One person's been killed and 19 injured. And yes, the city's defences are proving effective with those ground-to-air missiles, protecting its citizens. But of course, they can't be completely shielded by the reality of this war.
James Waterhouse in Kiev, and it's funny to think that on a normal day before the war, if I wanted to go in Kiev and see my colleagues there, it would have just been a 6-7 hour drive and we could have had dinner together. But now,
Colette, the worst. I don't know if you get it in your neck of the wood, but over here in the UK, you get people collecting for charities out in the street. You know, the people that fucking try and stop you and annoy you and shit. These motherfuckers work commission. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're not volunteering to collect for a charity. They're doing it as a job, commission. Trying to sign you up in a weekly, monthly, pay this much a month bullcrap shit. I don't know, each to their own, man. If donating to charities keep you happy and stuff, I'm like a lot of yous in there, man. I'm uber sceptical about it.
Now Kiev, Lviv and other cities are almost isolated from each other. You are able to travel, but those journeys are dangerous and they take an awful long time. Just before we go, I want to take you through what life has been like here in Lviv today. It has meant to be a refuge from the fighting that James Waterhouse and my other colleagues in Kiev have.
Generally speaking, £25 a night for a bed isn't too bad. But it's not going to. It's going to take somebody. It's going to take a homeless person off the street for one night. It's not going to deal with the problems, man. I mean, some would say it's lack of housing stock, and maybe that's part of the problem. But with my experience, a lot of experience in and around ball deep with homeless people and whatnot, it's the battle isn't getting them housed. The battle is getting them into a headspace where you can keep them housed, i.e. Paying their bills, behaving themselves so they're not getting kicked out, causing wars with their neighbours, so on and so forth. The list is endless. Because homeless people tend to be well, a lot of them are mentally ill, but slipped through the net or aren't severe enough to want any treatment and shit. A lot of them are institutionalised. You know, even when I was in the jail, I met people that didn't want to leave. They were deliberately going out there and re-offending as quickly as all they know in their life is jail. And if you're a junkie and you're sitting in jail getting your fucking subbies every day, Well, then happy as Larry, just sitting fucking smacked out your fucking bingo 24/7, watching fucking Jeremy Kyle, getting your meals and all that. Anyway,
been talking about, but this morning everybody was woken up at 6 o'clock by an air raid siren. Some people have told me that they carried on trying to go back to sleep, that they were dozing because we've had air raid sirens almost every morning and they usually end in nothing. But on this occasion, there were those 4 explosions that we've been talking about throughout the day. Those explosions happened about 4 miles behind me. As soon as that explosion happened, one florist I spoke to just now called her husband. He was on the night shift on a supermarket to check that he was okay. Another man who's a product designer and he's also a hip-hop artist got messages.
Yes! Here's the X Factor backstories. Now, these people's occupations, their inside leg measurements, whether they've got a glass eye and a wooden leg, a hip-hop artist or a fucking country and winter artist, is irrelevant to any fucking news or facts that's fucking in and around this war. But Airside Shed Eddie fucking painting the picture.
From his friends in Kiev and Dnipro asking if he was okay. But it seems that people have decided to carry on here. Almost all shops are open. I spoke to 2...
What the fuck? So he just said... I'm confused.
2 servers at a Japanese food restaurant. They're Ukrainians and they say that they wanted to put on their uniforms, turn up to work on time. They had their menus ready and they wanted to continue serving people. I spoke to 2 women in a stationery shop who say that they are scared, but they wanted to continue working and that they did not want to take that several-hour trip across the border to Poland. That's how things are looking now in Lviv. Do stay with BBC News.
Side Shed Eddie, man. Surprised they're not giving us the weather in fucking Ukraine first and foremost. Anywho, I'm definitely going to see if I can dig out that Lavrov. No, the baldy guy at the UN speech about the chemical, or was he talking about chemical or biological weapons? Can't remember now. Either or, because he had the documents. So it's going to be very interesting to check that shit out. This is stuff I'm getting ready for Tuesday, but you know, we've had that woman released from Iran, the woman that Boris Johnson came out and admitted was a spy, and then came out and went, "Oh, I got it wrong, she isn't a spy, she's really just a teacher, she was right," and had to come out and apologise and all that. Oh, it's just, this is what I'm talking about, the double speak and the inability. Like, Boris Johnson, everybody knows that she was in there spying or like doing work for the British government. But you have to keep up the facade. It's hidden onto kids that Santa's real when they know it isn't. So anyway, if you're listening, kids, Santa is real. Oh, let's listen to this. This is interesting.
For any people who are wondering what is going on, alright, we were part of the Georgian National Legion, the 102nd Ukrainian Territorial Defense, okay? Our base got fucked up, the base right next to us got fucked up, Americans, British, tons of British dead, alright? They're not saying nothing, they're counting our dead as their dead. They're trying to send us to Kiev with no fucking weapons, no kit, no fucking plates. The people who are lucky enough to get weapons are only getting magazines with like 10 fucking rounds, okay? When they wanted to send us to Kiev, we said no. Our whole group, a bunch of Americans, Canadians, British. So they told us we had to get the fuck out or they were going to shoot us in the back, alright? So me, this British guy, and another American, we fucking hid in the back of an ambulance to get out. We got to the border, and it was a whole nother mess. When you get to the border, anyone who has kit, anyone who has any military shit, they're fucking pulling you out of the line and they're sending you back to the front. We got dropped off about 5 clicks from the fucking, from the border, and we walked. And we get to the border, and this humanitarian group with a bunch of ex-SF veterans from England pull us to the side and say, you need to get, like, pulled us out and fucking, like, hit us. And they were like, you need to dump. Pulling people out, cutting up passports, sending them back.
Fuck.
We got, like, in all of our fucking, we got in, like, Red Cross vests, and they had, like, fucking humanitarian passes to get us through the Ukrainian border. People need to stop coming here. It's a trap, and they're not letting you fucking leave. The best way to leave is, like, in a Vic or a car or something. People who get on by vehicle.
Aye, Kirk's homeless people, man. People that end up homeless. It's people that are... Oh. Fuck, man. Well, it's a mixed bag, but a lot of them, man, as you're saying, man, it's like divorce, depression, what would you call it? Mental breakdowns. You know, sometimes people try to, you can't cope with whatever, so you run away from whatever support circles you have because you can't cope, and you end up just... I've got plenty of sympathy for homeless people, man. It's fucked up though. You really need some heavy fucking... The majority of the people that are homeless are in a spiral and need heavy support to drag them out that spiral, that revolving door, man. And they need to want to get out that spiral themselves, man. And it's like people get institutionalised, and like homeless people get institutionalised in a sense. If you get me, I know they're not in an institution, but they get used to that lifestyle. You know, the soup kitchens, where you get your free meals. Going down lineups and all that, getting paid. Honestly, but like, I've been through a few homeless units and all that back in the day, and the cops used to come round and pay you. They used to pay you cash to go and do lineups and stuff, man. Real fun, real good fun, and you get some dough for it as well. Anyway, my headphones about to run out.
Their fucking kit in the bag, doing whatever the fuck they can, but do not try to leave Ukraine off foot if you're a volunteer. It's a mess, and it's a trap. And I have multiple people who can confirm this story for me. I'm getting for anything.
Well, take it with a pinch of salt or not, man. But you can question whether it's legit or not, or whether it's been put out there. It's just interesting. It's worth considering. It's worth putting out there to consider. Just like RT. Right, I'm going to have to do the off because my headphones are giving up. Method Man Colette, Kirks. Remember, if you did appreciate it, thumbs it up. It's much appreciated. Share it with your friends, family and foes. Help the channel and the show grow. That's my headphones gone. So tune in next Monday when I should be right as rain. I bet you my throat is back to normal. Fingers crossed. Yep, thanks to everybody in the chat. Fight the traffic. Catch you later, Method Man. Colette. Davo, thanks for joining again, mate. Roberto, hopefully you're well, mate. Colette, Cux, Davo, Method Man. Bright was in as well, and Alan was in the afternoon, gents and gentle ladies. Rebel, thanks for joining, buddy. Who Cares was in earlier as well, but disappeared off my screens right now. So thanks to everybody that's joined, whether I've missed your name out or no. Unless I die for COVID over the weekend, I should be back. I'll come back on Monday. Get some Glenmorangie in me. Mate, I wish I could, but it wouldn't just be one. I'd be drunk for days. And that's no good for my immune system. I'll stick with the Manuka honey at the moment. Although I think the Manuka honey I think it'd be cheaper with the Glenmorangie, to be honest. Later's Alan, buddy. Catch you after. So, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Don't die of the COVID. And I'll catch yous next Montag. Catch yous. Clips, clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well in 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy. Clips, clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell, everything will be well. 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.